It's day 14 of the 1605 Content Festival. Welcome. My name is Jente Kater from Voicebooking. 1605, it's a new festival, 21 webinars in a row during the month of June, and they all have something in common. They have something to do with the creation of great content. Next week, voice coach Stefan Koninkaar on character building for animation. We have our own Gijs Friese about sound design for video producers. So if you are not a sound designer, but you are a video producer and you want to know more about the tips and tricks for sound design, just watch that webinar. And if you are, like me, a non-native English person who sometimes has to speak English for a living, then I strongly advise you to attend to the webinar Rock Your English with Buffy Duberman. She is great. She is awesome. She's from the United States, so she's awesome. And it's really inspiring. Buffy Duberman, next week. Today, it's all about music. And me, myself, I started as a radio DJ, and I really like to make jingles and promos. And I did that for many radio stations. Of course, you need a voice, you need sound effects, and you need music, and then you have to blend those together. And sometimes it's a bit like making something out of nothing, and then, bam, there's something beautiful. And one of the most difficult aspects of making such jingles and promos was for me finding the right tools to work with and finding the right music. That mostly, if I had found the right music, then everything just clicked, and then it was simple to make beautiful things. And with videos, sometimes adding the right music is also a part that makes a big difference. But what to look for and what to avoid? Well, therefore, we went to our friends of Epidemic Sound. And today, Julia Weitz is going to take you deeper into the world of music. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, just ask them via the question and answers within Zoom. If you are the first time over here, it's just underneath with your mouse, go underneath, and there's the question and answer. Or if you are watching via the stream on Facebook, just ask them over there. And then afterwards, we will go and dive deep into the questions. Day number 14 of the 1605 Content Festival, webinar number 14, Julia Weitz with the importance of music in video. Enjoy.
Hello, I'm Julia Weitz from Epidemic Sound, and I'm going to tell you a bit more today about the power of music on your video.
Gotta cut loose. Kick it up, Sunday shoes. Please, Louise, pull me up in my knees.
As professionals working on music and video, you have to ask yourself many questions, like which kind of lighting am I going to use, or what is the right background? But as you just saw in this video clip, what is as important for your video marketing campaign is the music you're going to use. In fact, music is one of the most underrated tools in increasing watch time, boosting conversion, and driving engagement. Music, and sometimes the lack of it, can really make or break your video. It is directly linked to your marketing video campaign. But how come that music can be so compelling and that it can make the audience so that it can make it more memorable and more emotional, or that the audience can be more engaged with the right music? This is because music talks to people's emotions. If you think about it, for example, Coca-Cola, who always uses like a very happy sound, where the videos are like uplifting, and every time when you see the brand or you see a clip of that brand, you get that same emotion. It will be the same emotion that will be evoked, a happy feeling. But why is that? Music is universally recognized for its mood-altering effects. So it's directly linked to some parts in the brain that are linked to emotion and memory. So even when you see a clip, the effects on your brain will be not as fast as what you will hear. So every time you hear, for example, a sound logo like this one, you normally immediately think of a brand you know. Yeah, I cannot ask this now, but it was Netflix. I think people will have recognized this. And then also to show you how different emotions can be on the same content, I brought a clip with the same content and with two songs that you probably will recognize. Let's check it out. So here, I don't know if you recognize it, but the first one was from Finding Nemo and the second one was from Jaws. So you immediately see that with like a light song in the beginning, you get like a very comfortable emotion, a good feeling. And the second one creates a more scary part. So it immediately, the same content can create a different emotion with some different music. But now that you are convinced of the importance of music and that I showed you what it can do, it is still a very daunting task to find the right music. It's easy to speak about it, but to find the right track for your video marketing campaign or for your clip in general, it can take up a lot of time, and it's really important that you think about it before you start editing and start with your campaign. So that's why I brought some tips today to help you find the right music. First of all, when you probably have started with your marketing campaign, you have set a target audience. That's why I also thought that it's very important to consider your audience. When you will set up your target audience, this will be based on age and culture. For example, if you want to reach out to your target audience would be baby boomers, then I would not recommend to use like very hard electronic beats with a high BPM, because then you will not evoke the emotions that you want to have with like a baby boom public. But on the other hand, sometimes I have seen in the past that it's not too bad to test the stereotypes and sometimes try something different, because you can create new emotions for your target audience with the right music. Then secondly, this is for me the most important one when to find the right track, and that is to determine your emotion. You really want to know which kind of emotion you want to evoke before you start looking for the right music. So for example, if you want to have like Coca-Cola, a happy, uplifting track, then you have to write that down, the emotions, every mood that you want to set there. And then thirdly, define your needs. This I will dive in a bit deeper, because there are a lot of tools that can help you find those needs for your video clip. So first of all, it looks like an easy one, the genres. So this is pretty logical, but there are many, many genres. So if you think about it, for example, you would say, okay, I want to have a rock and roll song on my video, but still there are so many subgenres within that genre. For example, rock and roll can go to 1970 rock and roll, 90s, 80s rock and roll. So the more specific you go there and you set that up before, the better and easier you will find the right track. Then secondly, to find that need, you also need to set the mood of your clip. This is again linked, of course, with that emotion. So if you want to have like a laid back mood, then I would go more in the direction of a not too fast BPM. Or if you want to have like something more faster with moving images, then you look for a faster BPM. This is also linked with the third part, and that is energy and tempo. Because I have been talking about BPM, and this is the beats per minute. So if it would be a very fast moving clip, then I would say you go around 130 BPM, which is already like super fast. And it's also important that you think about that before you start looking for your track, because there's a big range in there. Then fourthly, the vocals and instruments. This is one where I see that people make a lot of mistakes, because with the vocals, you, first of all, for sure, when it's in a different language, you have to listen to the vocals on the track, because sometimes it can give a different message than the message you want to bring with your video clip. So if that's not in line with the product that you are presenting, I would recommend to not use vocals on there. Also, when you are working with a voiceover, you have to check that the voiceover is not at the same time with the vocals of the song, which is logical, but we have seen mistakes there. And then instruments, this is like a detail, but for example, if you would want to have only saxophones, then you can write that down before, and this will help you, of course, find the track easier. Then fifthly, the reference track. This is something that is used a lot in practice. That is just to base yourself on a track that your favorite track, or the track that you had in mind from another clip. And then you can just write the genre down, mood, and so on based on your reference track. So now I'm going to show you an example that Epidemic Sound did. So it's 2 songs from Epidemic Sound, and it's actually up to you to guess it. It's a project that we did for LG. And one song is the right song and brings the right message, and one song, is the wrong song.
Is far. Blue is far.
So I'm going to tell you now today what the right song and the wrong song is. So you might have guessed it, but the second one is the right track to the video clip, because what the brand wanted to aim was to get that comical effect. And what you see a lot with clips is that they create that stop of the music to have like a more sarcastic effect. And the first track that was chosen on the video clip was way too slow, didn't create that emotion. It was just laid back and nothing actually happened. With the second video, you saw that because of that pause and the more building up track, there is a way more dramatical effect, and you also have a comical tone to your video. So now I've told you a lot about what to do, but of course I will tell you also what not to do, or in other words, what to avoid when searching a track or picking a track for your video marketing campaign. So because you don't want to be working on have a lot of budget for your campaign and then pick the wrong track, because wrong music can really ruin great footage and create inconsistency with the message that you want to bring. what we have seen in the past, that a lot of people choose music that is very popular at the moment, or they just check on streaming what is now in the top 10. First of all, which I will tell you later, you will have some problems with copyrights there. But secondly, also you have to be careful there, because this can absolutely not be the message that you want to bring. It's not because it's a popular song that this will work for your campaign. So it's important that you think about this, and that you listen to the vocals, make sure that the message of the music is consistent with your video clip. So as I said, you have to be aware of copyrights, because there is a big legal aspect when working with music. Of course, every song is copyright protected. Or in other words, if you would want to work with like a commercial track and you would say, okay, I just put it on there, you cannot do that because it's copyright protected, and you need to have the permission from the copyright holder to use this song on your video. If you're working with a smaller budget or a not so big target audience, this can sometimes be a problem, because the budgets just cannot handle it, or in other words, it's not just the right track for your video. Also, now on social media, there are a lot of copyright detecting mechanisms. For example, Facebook and YouTube have really increased their mechanisms there, and you have to be careful. For example, if you would think, like I'm just doing a small campaign, they will not see that I'm using commercial music here. They do see it, because there's a filter on YouTube and Facebook that immediately scans the music that is used on your clip. So first of all, you will not be able to monetize your video. Secondly, there will be ads on your video. And thirdly, worst case scenario, your account can be blocked, and you can lose all your viewers. So you really want to avoid that. I'm bringing this up also, of course, because it's important, but also to introduce Epidemic Sound, because we are a royalty-free library company who work with artists worldwide who are not affiliated with any collecting society, like the Buma Stemra in the Netherlands, Sabam in Belgium. So here you hear in the background some music. I'm not gonna talk over it, otherwise it's a bit confusing. But
yeah, I'm so aligned with my stench. My career probably smell like piss, bitch. Switch kid on the line. You take a dip, I just dive into the shallow.
You can see on our website that this is our player, and every track can there be downloaded in separate stems. This means that when you're editing on your video, you can download everything separately, the bass line, guitar, vocals, to get that out or in your track, and you can really mix it up then. Also, as I have shown you in the beginning, like where it's important to find the right genre, mood, which emotion you want to evoke, the player is set to that. So you will find text in there that on the browse function where you can set your genre, you can set your mood, and then you can go deeper into the library and find the right track for your content. Also, on the player, I really recommend to check it out. You will find a Find Similar button. This is when you find the right track for your video, but it's not completely that yet. You just click on that, and that will refresh all the songs, and you will have a list of songs within the same genre and area. Because all the artists of Epidemic Sound are not affiliated with any collecting society, our music is cleared worldwide in perpetuity and on every platform. This means for you as a video creator that you can work with the music without being afraid to receive any claim on the music, as we offer you a license that gives you the right to put the music to your video content. So, a last part that I wanted to talk about that a lot of music companies offer, and also we at Epidemic Sound do this. If you would say like, okay, it's nice what Julia talked about today, but I'm not really willing to look for tracks, or it's a very daunting task for me, a lot of music companies offer a music search service. This means that you will be appointed a curator who will make a tailor-made playlist for you based on your reference track, on your images, or just the mood that you want to set for your video. Then I brought also an example of a music search that we did. The client is Lee, the jeans brand, and they asked us to have something based on Run DMC. So this is the results. It's a nice result, I find personally.
And ready, and showtime. Work your magic. Here we go. All right, keep working it. That's my year, 1980.
Without Jamel Shabazz photos, there would be no Cool Out K today. All his images inspired my style, and just looking at the clothing, you learn a bit about the history, and Lee jeans was a really big part of that.
All right, one more time, y'all.
I like to bring out a lot of the clothes from that era nobody wears anymore. So it's kind of how I style myself. And like to me, like he is hip hop.
Oh, this gives me memories here. All right, showtime. All right, can I get a smile? Oh, this is nice right here. All right, lady, showtime. Work your magic. That's it. Hold that right there. All right, it's a wrap. I'm there. Outstanding. Okay, next phase.
It's a wrap.
All right.
So here you see how you can create a very cool vibe for the Lee clip. Then I brought an example. This is 5 really different tracks, different genres, different moods, but on the same content again. It's all epidemic sound music on a higher BPM, so everything is above 130 BPM. And it's not our content, it's content from Apple, but this will really show you what I'm talking about today, how music can influence your emotion.
Coming in, yeah, flex. I just wanna win. LA BB, who we running with? Yeah, 2 2 3 3, I'm on track again.
So here you saw 4 different songs, but 4 different emotions. Then what I want to talk about lastly today is custom composition. When you are creating a video marketing campaign and you really want to set that unique, you want to have that unique tone, unique song, then you can always go for custom composition. We at Epidemic Sound offer this with our daughter company Antidote, where we set you up with one of our composers who create from scratch a song fitting to your campaign. And this will also be a global buyout, which means that you have the right to use the music exclusively. So the last example that I brought today is for a Daniel Wellington clip that we did. And this is completely a custom production.
How do you become an icon? You need time to design, to redesign, to start building, to fail, and to get back in the game. You work, you tweak, you fine-tune, until one day you're ready to show the world. But then, it's out of our hands. Because it's not we that make an icon, it's you.
So my name is Julia Waits. I work at Epidemic Sound as a licensing manager, and I think we have a Q&A now.
Yeah, we sure do. Thanks, Julia, for this great webinar. Before we start, if you have any questions for Julia, just ask them via the question and answer within Zoom, or just ask a question via Facebook. Julia, you are from Belgium. You live here in Holland. Before we start, what makes you go into this market?
What made me go into this market? I was always very passionate about music. So when I was younger, I played the drums. Then during law school, I was DJing. So that was always a really big influence in my life. And then actually after my studies, I went to London and Berlin for business school. And there was actually somebody who told me, like, why don't you look into the music industry? Because you always talk about music and you know a lot about copyrights. And that's how I found Epidemic Sound, because I was really attracted to the way they license and how they work with artists worldwide. And then, I started work for Epidemic Sound, and I'm still here.
And are you still playing drums?
No, not really. Like, I tried a bit during quarantine, but I can still play it, but it's not I'm not Dave Grohl, let's say.
Okay. Not Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, but are you playing something else now, or is it just listening to great music and that's it?
I'm mainly buying vinyl, listening like constantly to music, and I still mix, but that decreased a bit. It's more like a hobby now.
And what styles you like?
Chicago house and Detroit house are really my favorites.
Good. There's a great story about Epidemic Sound, how they started. I don't know if everybody knows that story, and it's such a good story. Do you mind sharing it?
The story of Epidemic Sound, yes, of course. So Epidemic Sound was founded in 2009 and is really a family business. So it started partly, our founders came out of the really video production side. So they were working for Zodiac TV in Sweden, Stockholm. And on the other side, the other part of our founders were actual music producers. So they produced for Madonna, Celine Dion, Glee, for example. So they were really big. And they came together because there was a universal problem that they struggled with. And I think a lot of people nowadays and in the past already. And that was that you always, with TV productions, need to fill in cue sheets, that every second needs to be explained, that you cannot use all the songs you want to use every time. And that's after a long brainstorm session how they started with Epidemic Sound and started to work with artists who were not affiliated with a collecting society, like the Stämden in Sweden. And so they started with around, 1,000, 2,000 tracks. And it was actually our CEO now who went around with his bike in Sweden to broadcasters and publishers with like a hard disk to give the music, or because back then there was no player and there was no streaming. And now today we have a catalog of around 30,000 tracks in 140 genres, and next to that 60,000 sound effects. And I think on a monthly basis everything is updated with 200 to 300 tracks.
Yeah, and now the difficult part for you guys is that Sena, Buma Stemra, and all those other what's the name?
Collecting societies.
Thank you. Every country has their own, and sometimes you are saying we have all the rights, and they're saying no, you're not, and you are saying no, we are having all the rights, and you're saying no. No. So they are saying, sorry. This is confusing, but they are saying you don't have every right. Maybe you have 89% of all the right, but you still have to pay. And there's something special what you guys did to really ensure that you have all the rights, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that's, as I said, that they are not affiliated with a collecting society.
Yeah.
So indeed, it is a complex industry. And because if you want to produce for Epidemic Sound, you won't be in any collecting society anymore. Yeah. So it's not really that we have a discussion with collecting societies, because we own the copyrights on our music. So it's more that when they use Epidemic Sound and a collecting society would be asking, what is this music? They can say it's Epidemic Sound and this track by this artist who are just producers under Epidemic Sounds. And this is how we do it, but this is for production music then. And also what started a few years ago, now all the Epidemic Sound music is also on streaming platforms like Spotify and so on, where we do a 50-50 split with the artists on the streaming revenue. So this is also something very new in the music industry, I believe.
Great. And now that you guys are based and founded in Sweden makes it, I think, maybe many people now think, why Sweden? But what many people don't know is that almost 30% of every hit you hear is made or in Sweden or with somebody who lives in the United States but is from Sweden. Max Martin is one of the biggest producers of all time. He scored almost more #1 hits in the Billboard hit lists than Lennon and McCartney, Elvis Presley, etc., etc. So it's not strange that you came from Sweden. But do you know why Sweden such a big player is in the music world?
I just know they have a lot of really good producers, and that our founders had an amazing idea. Like in Stockholm itself, the music scene and the producing scene for sure is really big. But the reason why I cannot tell you, because I'm Belgium and I actually work mainly from Amsterdam on the Belgian and French and Luxembourgish market. But Sweden is for sure really big on the music scene.
I once heard somebody saying one of the reasons is that music lessons in Sweden are free. It's just, you don't have to pay for music lessons.
That I didn't know. I'm also learning today.
All right. I've got some questions from our audience. Let's start with Fred O'Donnell. He says, a very informative webinar. Thank you. How do you guys work with composers? How does it go?
So we work with a fixed amount of composers. Of course, that increases still, but you have to apply for Epidemic Sound. And then when you are a composer for Epidemic Sound, you produce exclusively for us. And this is based on a briefing that we give you on a monthly basis. So then you will know you will be paid upfront for that song. And this is, we follow the trends in video landscape, but also, of course, the music that is trending. And every composer within his genre and within his specialty will be contacted to produce for us. But of course, you have to first be a composer for Epidemic Sound to start producing.
Are there trends?
Trends in music or so trends, like mainly the trends that we base ourselves on. Of course, we are really big on YouTube. So because a lot of vloggers are using Epidemic Sound in their clips, this is actually how we grew so fast. So we base, of course, ourselves on the trends on YouTube, but we are also influenced by Netflix, every social media platform, Twitch. that is also becoming super big. So there are a lot of trends that we follow.
Yeah. When producing videos, there are many producers who are using ukuleles. That was a big trend. I think around 2012, 13, something like that. Do you also see trends happening on the platform? So what people are really using?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if a song is just more popular than the other one, we also have in our player like the most popular music or what is really trending. On YouTube, you can find playlists about that. But this is in many different genres. So there's not that I can say like there's one line of like ukuleles. That is personally not my favorite instrument. So I don't think that trend is still going on. But in general, there are a lot of like when a song, of course, is trending, then we will make sure that there more is produced in that line.
Yeah. Okay. Alan Duval, he says, if I find the right track on your website, but it needs a minimal adjustments, how does that work?
Then you can contact us at Epidemic Sound, and then we will bring you in contact with the composer and see what the options are.
Okay. And so then it's not within the library fee.
No, then it becomes a custom light.
Yeah. How do you guys find the right people to do this?
How do we find? It's actually insane how many people. How many composers and artists that are applying for Epidemic Sound worldwide. We cannot keep up. So it's not that we really go looking for them. What would happen if it's like, for example, for the next semester, it would be that, next quarter, that we would need somebody who's like very good in Latino pop, that we would search specifically more for a composer in that genre. Yeah. But it's not that we are really looking. Most of the time they come to us. Yeah.
I know in the United States, in London, but also here in Amsterdam, there are music producers who also work with well-known artists, so hit makers. Most times they nobody knows they are working with them because those artists don't want you to know they are working with them. How does that work with you guys? Do you also work with well-known artists?
Well-known artists, yeah, that depends. Some well-known Swedish artists and American, but it's not that artists that are like on the billboards that will be with Epidemic Sound, because you cannot be affiliated with a collecting society, as said.
Okay, yeah. This one is from Bauke Sonneveld. Sorry if it was already said or asked. Is every genre represented on your website? For example, if I want to put a thrash metal or ska track under my production, can I find it? Thrash metal. Do you have thrash metal?
I want to hear a thrash metal song, to be honest. No, we have around 140 genres. You should check it out. I know we have metal, thrash metal specifically, that you will need to check on the player itself, because if I search for a track, I mainly look for the tracks I like myself, but I'm sure something in the line of will be there. And also, if you wouldn't find it, you can always send us a reference track, and then we will make a playlist tailored to your needs.
Great. I once had a neighbor who liked thrash metal, and the problem was he was a drummer. It was but that's another story. Johan Nevitz, I hope I pronounce your name right. Is there a difference between author rights and owner rights for tracks?
Yeah, of course, but I wouldn't know specifically with owner rights if it's on the music. Because within production music, there are 3 different kind of rights, and those are public performance rights, mechanical rights, and synchronization rights. And those we ask Epidemic Sound to be at our part. Otherwise, you have to be affiliated with a collecting society. So I think this all falls within the name of author and owner rights. If that answers the question.
Yeah. Okay. Some people are afraid that their track is also being used by other producers. Is there a way to see how many people are using the tracks?
Not really, because Epidemic Sound is worldwide and we cannot keep track. If you would say, I want to have something exclusively, of course, that can be set up and then we compose something. But most of the time, for me, sometimes I used to work only on Belgium, then I would have like a view over what is used in Belgium. But nowadays, we cannot keep track, to be honest.
Okay. How to determine the right emotion? What do you see happening? So people are looking for the right track. What helps you to find that right emotion?
I think if you are, before you start on your video marketing campaign, you will already set that emotion. When working around a product, then I think that will already be defined during a brainstorming session. And then if you have set it, it's easier with the tips and tricks that I said today to find that track. But to determine that emotion, that is something that you will have to feel yourself, because I think it's a very subjective thing.
Yeah. Next question is from Karin Bengel. Maybe you know the answer, because I don't think it has something to do with Epidemic Sound, but maybe you know it. She said, if you use a parody or instrumental version of a popular song, do I also need to pay for the rights? Of course, the answer is yes, but do you know more of that?
So, that would depend if it's a sound-alike or if it's actually the track that they remade, then you will have to actually pay the composer, the artist of that track. So, I would say.
Okay, but so you say if it's a sound-alike, it's no problem?
No, I'm not saying that. So I think every time the artist that makes the music needs to get a fee for that and needs to be protected. That's why there are author rights. And everything is set. So even if it would be a parody or an instrumental version, I think you will have to check where the artist is, where his label is, or who he's producing for, and get in contact with them, or see if it's like us, royalty-free music that you need a license. That I would every time check out, because if you put it online and you don't have the right to use it, then it can really damage your brand.
Yeah. Juan Dinero says ABBA is from Sweden. That's right. You go for the washing machine, Juan. Avicii is from Sweden. Roxette is from Sweden. It's pretty. Just check Wikipedia on the name of Max Martin. Just check that name and you will be stunned how many hits are made from Sweden. Britney Spears, the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC. It goes on and on and on. After I knew that, I was listening to the radio, and since that, sometimes I listen to the radio and I just hear 15 minutes long. I hear music from Sweden. It's so totally crazy how many hits, in how many hits Sweden has his part. It's totally crazy. Just check Wikipedia. But that's something else, Julia. Sorry for that. But I think that's awesome. About Antidote. That was new for me. So Antidote is a daughter of Julie? A daughter of you guys, sorry. Well, you know what I mean. Please tell me something more about it.
So Antidote is a part of Epidemic Sound, where we now renamed and rebranded that. So if you want to have like a custom composition, that there's actually a complete team that will help you out and create a mood board, make sure that you have the perfect artist for your product, or for this music that you want to have produced. And this got a different name because Epidemic Sound is way too much linked to our player and the music online.
Yeah, and now I can assume that because you guys are Epidemic Sound, and with this new company. You are moving into the a space of the producers, the chefs who are really creating especially what you want. You are adding something extra to the sauce.
Yeah, it's an extra service, but of course the focus still lays on epidemic sound. It's just, for example, as somebody asked today, if they want to have like something, for example, added a saxophone to a track, then we now offer that service. But the focus stays on epidemic sound and the catalog that we represent.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're there. Yes. Before we end, check out voicebooking.com/en/webinar for what we do next week. So next week we have Stefan Konikar. He's a great voice coach, sound design for video producers with Gijs Vriesen. And go check it out if you are not native like me, like you heard. Go check it out. Buffy Duberman, she's absolutely great. Or as she would say, because she's from Brooklyn, awesome. She's awesome. Julia, thank you for being here. If people have any questions, where can they reach you?
You can reach me at julia@epidemicsound.com. So that is not difficult. Or amsterdam@epidemicsound.com.
Okay. Julia, thanks. And thank you for watching. Bye.